It's recorded.
Well, anyway, we raised tobacco and raised it at the bottom. And to get to that bottom, you had to go over a hill. And had a team of bears, Betty and Bess. They were sorrels. And we started over that hill in order to not let the sled run down on them. I had chains under the runners on the sled. They'd dig into the ground, hold it back. Anyway, we raised the tobacco down there, which wasn't a lot of tobacco, because he didn't have that much. Anyway, some of it was raised down there in the bottom. Had to bring it up that hill. Old Bess and Betty, well, they had to stop and rest. Anyway.
How many sticks did you put on the sled?
I don't remember. It wasn't a lot. It was like playing today. I remember one time we had it up there close to the barn in the back, and it was full of crabgrass. You had to dig it out, and then you put dirt around the planks where you dug it out. It was a mess. Well, I lived about a mile down from South Fork Baptist Church. And I didn't have no way of getting up there except walk. I walked up there. And Daddy, when he was, a lot of times, he would be there, he'd be preaching at South Fork, and he had a guy that he went to school with down in Murray, Kentucky, preacher school, named D.W. Billington. And his boys had a dealership on cars at Murray, Kentucky. But he's a great evangelist. He's really an evangelist, preacher, evangelist. And there's where I went before the church and had a Bible meeting with him. And I remember I was baptized, I think, in Kentucky River. I was about 12 years old at Lord. Well, Daddy was called to pastor of Mount Hebron Baptist Church in 1947. And he moved up here in March, I think it was. And I was 17 years old. And I didn't want to move for nothing. I thought I lived in God's country. That's the way you feel. And you do. And 1947 in May, I moved up here. I finished up school down there. It didn't make no difference whether I did or not, because I didn't like school.
You finished school in Owen?
Oynton. And the principal, well, there was Cy Green, and he was kin to us somewhere or another. But I went to school in a one room schoolhouse. All the grades went there in one room. And I walked about 3 miles on the gravel road to get there. That's before we had a bus. And there's there was something, boys that went there, they had brothers, and I didn't have no brother. I was thinking about one of them that married Cy Green's daughter, Malone. His name was Malone. And he had 3 or 4 brothers. And I understand he run a grocery store there years after I left, but he died several years ago. Come up here in 1947, and in May, and so, I mean, I went uptown on Saturday night in Lancaster, Kentucky. I thought the deadest place I've ever had in my life. I didn't know nobody. I didn't want to know nobody, really. I said, I'm going back to Owenson next week. Well, I met Doris at church. Saw her. I wasn't used to these kind of girls. I'd heard about them before I come. My dad said he had a bunch of girls. He did, he had 3 boys. And I decided I was going back to Oregon. Well, I was sitting on the back seat, church, and come Dixie. In come Doris. Come in according to their ages. Yeah. They had on nylons, high heels, and form-fitting dresses. Miss Grover made their dresses. I think she made them out of feed sacks. Because they had feed sacks them days. That was pretty. And it was quite nice. And they cut them up, use them as clothes. Of course, Dorsey and Isaac, she didn't want to think that she was raising was going to feed sack. But it was a good looking feed sack. And so I was sitting in the Sunday school room upstairs in the old sanctuary with J.F. Edge, W.C. Brogan. I looked over W.C. and his ears had clouds of dirt in it. Which Doris had to get ready, but she didn't hit him or his ears. So I told J.F. Higgins, he was the first cousin. By the way, he died 2 or 3 years ago. Got an obituary up there on the desk. He was same age we was. I told him, I said, I want you to get me a date with that girl. Her name was Doris. Well, she what I knew. Well, he asked her, and then he had to ask her mother. Well, as long as you go with them, y'all date, it'll be okay. See, she was an agent too. So we gave him a date. I had a date with Doris. And we was in the back seat. And he went to Rinto Valley. Of all places, I didn't know about Rinto Valley. We got up there and that thing was full. You couldn't get in. I didn't care if I didn't get in. I just wanted to be there. I reached over and got her hand to hold it. She took my hand and put it back. Oh, she's a sweetheart. Oh, man. She's a good one. Yeah. So, that ended me going back to Ocean. And I had a girlfriend. We already planned for her to come up here and stay a couple of weeks. And she come. She's up here, but I didn't pay much attention to her. I feel kind of bad about it, but I had to have Doris. Yeah. Well, anyway. I turned 18 on June 27th. Then Joe Brothers turned 16 June 27th. We went down to his house for a birthday party. And Doris was down there. I didn't take her home, but I wanted to see her get home. I made his car. I turned around and went back down. It had been raining a little bit. And there was a mule standing out in the way of that bad curve. Space where E.C. Barker used to live. His son lived there now. I hit a mule right there. That mule shut up on that hood, and all of a sudden he fell off. Broke his leg. Lo and behold, it belonged down and next week it belonged to Sandler Brothers. They owned this farm. So I didn't know much about putting in business. A.T. Sanders was down there, and he pulled me off. We were down Ham Hill Road just a little ways. He says, "Son, you take care of the car, I'll take care of the mule." I thought that was a good deal. So I done it. And he killed him here. Anyway, that was on my birthday. Now I had another birthday the other day. 91. But anyway, I worked for Daddy Brogle, starting out before I married. And he didn't get his name for not being a high gear. He was high gear roller. And I try to keep up with him. Working his bike or anything. And I'd make it $2.5 a day. A little different today than what it is. First house we lived in was a schoolhouse that Joe Esmond had down there on Ham Hill Road. Was a schoolhouse. All it had in it was a fireplace. It had a toilet outside. Get out of the water, carried the water and cream can. And got me a stove put in there. Kitchen stove. I had $60 a year. I worked at stockyards too during that time, so that's when we had trains come in up in Langston. I'd catch a ride with, I can't think of his name now. Alan did. I'd go to stockyards with them and work all day and half the night. And then load out hogs and stuff on a train, send them away there. That's when Mr. Kirby Teeter, the daddy of J.L. Hogan, they all worked in stockyards. I worked there a while. Worked for Mr. Rowe too. He was a very good father-in-law. And that was 1947. In 1948, in September the 4th, me and Doris got married. And then we were 15 months. And so it was good memories. And what Doris always said, only thing we're going to leave here is memories. So there we went. So about 1940, 48, 49, I guess it was. I bought a farm up there, Cartersville. We got, I had 60 acres of flat land and the rest of it was knobs. Had a new tobacco barn on it. And set up there next to the woods. And Daddy had a little money. I used it and had to put, you couldn't put the farm in my name at that time. I wasn't old enough. I wasn't 21. So I put it in Dad's name. He owned the farm. I got all the cattle that we had, brown Swiss cows and calves, spotted fold China hogs, and all the tools, and a blind mare and a plug mule come with it.
Come with the farm?
Yeah, bought it all. Off of a little over $5,000. Had springs down below the house there. It was good. And I got 100 dominating hens with it. And I bought it from Prophet. He carried the mail. And he was Jim Clark's son-in-law. I bought the place, and we lived on eggs for a long time. I had a cream separator. I'd milk them brown Swiss cows and pour the milk, cream separator, turn it crank. The cream would come out one spout, the milk go out the other. Fed the milk to the hogs. And put the milk cream in a can, and I took the cream and eggs to town and sold them. Boy, it was living. I was living. And one day I went, now that was the country they do anything. It was bad up there. I didn't know nothing about it much, but I soon learned. I was about half a mile off from the main road where the mailbox is at, I guess. And I went to the mailbox one day. And on the way back, I saw two guys walking across a flat field with shotgun apiece. Two boys. One of them was a sailor and the other was Doyle McGuire. He was about 17, 18 years old, I guess. I said, there goes my chicken house, hen house. I went on past the house, went up to the back of the barn, got in the stripping room, looked out the window. I said, yeah, they're getting closer to it. They're going to get in that chicken house. So I went the other way and got between them and the house, and I run down there, and I had a double barrel shotgun. One's the best barrel. It stayed cocked, wouldn't shoot, and the other side would. And I got that shotgun, went out a side door, and pulled it up had it right on the corner of the house. And I intended to shoot if they had their guns in their hands. Found out later, Mr. Pro said, you'd have killed him if you'd shot. I didn't know the difference. But they didn't have the guns. They laid them up behind the chicken house. It didn't take me long to be over there in front of the door. I said, what are you guys doing in my chicken house? We're hunting. I said, you know better than hunting my chicken house. Yeah, and a handful of eggs and pockets. I said, you come out of there, I want you to go this way. I knew where the guns were at. Norris didn't even know I was around. Took him over there and made him just sit out on the steps of the porch. I was standing out there from him about 15, 20 feet, talking pretty loud. Norris heard us. She come out, what are you doing? I said, I caught them in my chicken house. She started preaching. When he both go to church. And Norris said, I ain't interested in that. What are you going to do? I said, I haven't decided whether I'm going to shoot him or take him down. That sailor boy, he got to crying. He was half bald and the top of his head looked like he'd been stabbed. Anyway, we had boiled eggs, scrambled eggs, fried eggs, 3 times a day. We lived on eggs. But Jim Clark told me, he said, you get anybody down there, bring them up. I'll help you take them down. I bought the farm from his son-in-law. See, he's a good guy. He smoked the pipe. He go talking to him, Jim would, and pick it pipe right down and he'd strike a match and put it on top of that pipe. He might strike 10 matches before he ever got the thing lit. I was talking. Well, I joined Paul Green right behind where he married a lady that owned a lot of land back there. But he made a good friend of mine. I had a place I could go through the fence and go through his farm. And I went through there, I remember one time when they set the backer, tried to set the backer. And I was driving my team. Paul said, Ayers, we having a hard time getting a road straight. Can you take that and hook to that center and you put us some straight roads there? I said, well, I believe you can. So I did. He said, now that's the way to do it. Well, I was up for 15 months, and this boy, father, come by, prophet, and he wanted to buy his farm, buy his son's farm back. I sold it to him. And me and W.C. bought the farm up here on Baston Road. And he was drafted in the Marines. I can tell you a lot about that. But I bought a bunch of sheep from George College and lived up in Cartersville. They moved them down there. I brought them brown Swiss cows with me. Brought some of the hogs with me. Oh, what I done them ends. I just left them up there. I made a little profit. I thought I did anyway. Anyway, moved down there. Old Pelton on the farm in Georgia. He went out the road there. He owned that farm. That's anyway. Had Danny, had Velma, we moved up there. Had Danny, and moved back. I remember had Danny on a horse up there, holding him on the top of the horse. And anyway, I gotta go pee. Lemon. One morning I had a bunch of cream cans out there full of milk. I forgot about them outside the gate. And so I took off running to the barn. Shit, I forgot them cream cans full of milk, and I run right over top. I went out in the gravel and skint myself up. Man, I jumped up and come back and come in the back door and passed out. Oh boy. I lived a luxurious life. Anyway, WC come back out of service. I sold that farm down there to him, and I was broke. I went to Danville, found a job at Manlin Raver, selling. They own a Chevrolet company. Ralph Grubbs worked there, and he started going his own business, so he did. And I took his place. They had to have so many salespeople.
You're selling cars?
Mm-hmm. To sell cars, they furnished me a car and $50 a week. I thought I had made. Until he couldn't make it on his own, so he's coming back. They already back. I lost my job. Of course, I didn't have much, but I thought it was. So I went to selling on commission while I was Humphrey. And
Selling cars still?
yeah, well, I could only sell the good ones. And I couldn't sell many of them. I wasn't no car salesman at the time. I lived out there on 4th Street, little green house. It's still there. That's when Danny and Melva was playing in the backyard, and then there's Ray Bratton right beside us. He had a flower shop. And I borrowed Daddy's money to buy that house. He had this little money. So maybe it's more than I had. And Lived there about 3 years, I guess. And I left left White House Duffrey because they was Billy Harmon and Mr. Sharp bought Dr. Pepper bottling joint, and they needed a supervisor. They thought I'd be a great one. So I went in as supervisor, which I didn't know shit from shine over about that. I drove a little green Chevrolet truck. And my job is to hire and train people to drive those pop trucks. And we'd load up trucks, pop trucks at night. And next morning they'd take off with them. I went over went to Springfield, Lebanon, got acquainted with all those towns. Sharp was he was a tough one. He come from Russell Springs. His father-in-law lived down at Russell Springs. And Sharp married, well, he was living in Danville on Broadway. He was a tough one to work for, but I learned a lot under him. I tried my best to do a good job, and I tried too hard. One day I went to work, and I was in the office there. I said, I don't feel right. And I turned as blind as a bat. And Charles Sharp said, we're going to take you to the hospital. So he got over one side, and somebody else took over the other side, and they put me in the middle of a pickup truck. We went to the hospital. Went in there, and the doctor, they x-rayed me and everything, and he said, I think it's your nerves, and you're the only one who can control it. He said, you've got to do it, or you've got to control your nerves. So, I did. Said my heart was in good shape. I still got the same one. Anyway, he's tough. He liked everything clean. He liked all his trucks clean. He was tough. So one day I come in, and it's a pretty little Chevrolet truck I was driving. Had some bird shit on it. How come there's bird shit on that truck? I said, I guess a bird shit on it. But he count the money when the boys comes in, with the change and everything. He'd sit over and count the money. He'd count it out to the penny. If they were short anything, he wanted to find out where it was at. That's all right. Well, he sold out. Making a long story short, he sold. I left him over and went to selling tax work, Haney Tax Service out of Lexington. And then he sold out and went back down to Russell Springs, built a house out on the lake. One day he's pulled him up firewood with a little old tractor, and he hit a stump and pulled the tractor right over on top of it and killed him. He had twin boys, Ronald and Donald Sharp. I trained them on the routes before I left. Ronnie, he died, and Donald, he bought a pop company down in Texas. And it's a Big Red, I believe. So Big Red. Anyway, he done well. He's still out there. He had a sheriff at a bank down there. He had a plane. I told him one day, I said, you're going to have to come up here and take me a ride in that plane. I said, I just want to train you to sell pop. And I said, look what you've done. You own Big Red. I'll do it. Well, he never did do nothing. Well, to make a long story short, after that, I lived down in Brownsville. I bought old Mrs. Bright's house, which was Woody Level's great-grandmother. I bought it through Ben and Carolyn Level. Mrs. Bright would have been dead. We went to look at it, and the porch had done rotted in. Nobody lived there forever. It needed painting and one thing or another. I could see what it could look like if we done it. We had it, and we walked up to go in the front door, and there laid a big Calistoga snake. Dora said, I've seen enough, let's go. I said, no, that snake ain't gonna live here long. I said, we're gonna look at this place. We did. And I concreted the porch. And we had a cistern beside the house. Got Uncle Willie and his daddy-in-law. They went down in there and they cleaned that cistern out and cemented. We got rainwater going in it. We had our water. Had about 100 layers out there, sold eggs. And Daddy, I got a Jersey cow from over down she was they had registered jerseys. I told him, I said, I want a Jersey cow that don't give much milk. It's gentle, real gentle. He said, we got one. I brought her home. And then that's what he milked. Out in the field, he'd stop her anywhere, and she'd stand still, and he'd milk her. The bucket was bigger than he was. But then he's been a horse. So, about to make a long story short, I got to work with Mormons. Fellow come by one day, and his name was Richards from Liberty. He left his card. He said, I want to talk to Mr. Ayers. I come in, Doris said, I was selling this Haney Tech Service that time. I lived there in Brussels. And said, this guy wants to talk to you. I'll sell feed. I just took it, throw it away, and try to forget about it. He called back again. He said, I never did talk to you. I never had talked to him again before. But Mr. Rowe recommended me. He said, he told Mr. Rowe, said, I'd like to find somebody that'll work. Well, I can tell you somebody that works if he can make any money at it. And he said, my son-in-law, Harvey Ayers. Well, Mr. Rover fed a little of it. He liked it. So, I got to sell it, and Richards, he sort of like Lonnie Neighbor, he couldn't tell the truth. It was in his favor, but I didn't know it then. Anyway, he thought the company had done him wrong or something. And he had a heart attack. When he hired me, he said, Ayers, he's going to train me. He said, if I pass out, surprise my mouth open and reach his pocket, get these little glistening pills and stick it under my tongue. I thought to myself, I'm going to learn this business fast. Well, that's the truth. I'm going to learn this business fast. Well, he showed me how to write up an order, and I knew what Mr. Rose said about the feed, and that was it. I told him I thought I could make it. And so I had Garrett County, he gave me Ball County to go. Well, I had part of Garrett County, I had Ball County to go with it. So I started out on my own. And I stopped at Kobe Arms. Didn't know him from Adams, didn't know him at all. And I just tell him what Mr. Rowe told me. On out the road, I had a guy out there that used it all the time, and Julian Bowen, nice fellow. And I sold him a lot of feed. He'd feed twice as much just to get to buy feed from me. I worked in Garrett County around 3 years. First year, I made about $4,000. That was a terrible lot of money. And I seen I wasn't going to do nothing there. I said, if I'm going to stay with the company, I've got to go further than this. I've got to make money through others. And that's the way it is. You got to make money through others, or you never get ahead. So I had 8 or 10 men working for me. I had to train them, help them make a living till it's trained.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
So you had 8 or 10 men.
Yeah. Of course, you didn't get them all at once. You just had you know. Had to get one and get him in his territory and train him how to sell, present the feed. Miss Bro said no doubt that Mormons was the best feed there was on the market and the cheapest in the long run. Well, anyway, I sold Kobe Yard 500 pounds of hog feed. I mean, everybody had hogs at that time. And nobody has hogs today, don't guess. Not around here. They gone big time. And so I went to done right well, and then I decided I'd go big or go home. So I went bigger, and I thought it was. I let them know I'd like to be district manager. Because I didn't think I could make any money just selling feed. So Frank Todd was the state manager. And he hired me to go to Campbellsville and live. The reason he hired me, he didn't have nothing to lose, because everybody ever went down there didn't make it. He didn't have nothing to lose, and I had everything to gain if I was any good. And I made sure that I was going to make it. So me and Doris went down there one time, looked around, of course, thought we wanted to live. And she said, I don't want no little hot brick house out of town. I can't even walk to town. I don't want nothing like that. It's just an old house here, up here under the shade tree here in the Campbellsville Post, where I can walk downtown. Okay. Had 2 houses going to sell at auction, certain day. Well, I was working in Marion County. Mike Todd was the easy way out. He hired a guy that didn't know his ass from a hole in the ground. His wife was a boss. And I gave him a hard time. If I was going to have anything and do very well, I had to hire somebody with respect, that people respected. And he's a good fellow, but he didn't know. He just eased around. And good fellow. He left me alone after he seen who I was. And anyway, I went down there. Mormons always said, you got to hire somebody better than you are. I thought, boy, that's going to be tough. But that's true. We try to hire somebody better than you. And then things got easier. You can hire. I went down to the insurance company. But make a long story short, though, I was working in Marion County, and this house sold at a certain time. And I was working with Philip. And I told her to sail down there to Campbellsville. I got to go to it. I'll be back. Just won't be long. Well, I went down there, and I drove up where the sale was, and they'd already started selling. I walked in the heard what they had. I made a bid on it. And I walked to the front door, went upstairs, looked around, come back down. It's in a room. He was standing on the front porch, auctioneer was. And I was right behind him. They said, "Where'd that guy go?" It was me. I said, "Right here he is." They said, "Well, you bought this house. Now we're going to sell that lot back there." I said, "I thought that lot was with it." I just said that. I didn't know. I wasn't every time there. I went, "No, you didn't think that." And so that lot, I bought it. Go with the house. And I wasn't there 15 minutes, signed the papers and left. Like 11. You think Daddy's a mover? I was a mover at them days. Oh man. And I made decisions pretty quick. Well, I went to this insurance office down there. And I went in and I told the guy, I said, "I need a good man here." And I said, "He's got to be a good one." I said, "I've got the best feed on the market." And I said, "There ain't but 2 or 3 people here who's used it. They buy it on a rail car. I didn't have it sent to them." And he went down his list. He named Tommy Dow's #1. And he was a back auctioneer. And he named this and that. Named me 10 names. And I went out there and met Tommy Dow, because his dad had a farm about say in town. His dad in town. For me, nothing. I said, Tommy had a big old Southern Road, big guy. And you know, he's dead now. Most of mine's dead. We've been in this house 2 times, me and Daddy. Anyway, I said, "Tommy, I need a good man here to sell the best feed we are." "Feed? As many feed companies we got here? Or have another?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "The best feed they are. It's not cheap or tough, but it's cheaper in the long run." He said, "Well, you show me somebody's feeding." Okay. I got in my car and I took Lee Reynolds. He said, "Tommy Dow, I can see in my chickens, I can see what it's done." He said, "I can drop a warm egg out here on this concrete and it'll stand up and look you in the face." And he had a Western Jersey herd. They had good cattle down there. Always did, because they didn't have no backer base much. Went out to George Griffin. He had another dairy. And he was burning plate man right down the side of the road. Tommy said, "He knew him." I said, "Well, I just said here. You go down and talk to him." But I thought if he talked to him himself, he'd believe him a lot more. He wouldn't think the guy's done it on account of me. And boy, they told him enough that he was ready to go. I said, "No, we're going to go over to Marion County." I should have thought over there. He had a grade A dairy. He sold bottled milk. He did. He said, I'm ready. I said, well, I got to talk to another guy. You know what I was doing?
Messing with him.
Huh?
Messing with him.
Yeah. I don't know where you're doing it on, but I did. And I had a record. Lowell Thomas was on it, talking about Mormons. Greatest research facilities, and the oldest in the nation. You would have heard Lowell Thomas. Boy, he can tell you that. I bet I got that record somewhere. Up there in the attic, I don't know. But I had him ready to go, buddy. we went out and started selling pig with a fellow named Manley. Hey, Manley. See, the dude taught me as a biker man, biker sale, auctioneer. And he went up to Mr. Manley and told him, he said, I've started selling Mormon's feed. Well, Mormon's feed, I wouldn't give a nickel for it, Manley told him. He said, well, I know nothing about it much, but this guy here will tell you. I told him all about what I knew. And turned out the guy bought $500 worth. We sold a lot of feed. And soon after, Tommy died. That's not that we was always good friends. And he was a money maker. He'd buy land, stuff. He had a lot of good land. But he got sick and he died. Now his wife is an invalid. She's in a nursing home down there, and she cannot move nothing except her eyes. I've been sued out. They got one boy. Well, they had one girl too. But she lived in California somewhere. And Sammy dated her once or twice. But Sue, after he died, she bought her a nice home over in Columbia. That's where she was from originally. And I traded cars with Cotton Phelps. Cotton Phelps at Overstreet. The first new car I rode got to there. Come here. Anyway, we visited Sue in her new home in Columbia. Everything looked well, and she's doing good. But she got, I think it's a blood clot, got in her rheumatiz, some way in, paralyzed her from the neck down. And she's an invalid, had plenty of money. How good is money when you ain't got no health? Right, she's laying down there, Challersville is Can't do nothing. Just there. Just there. I feel so sorry for her though. And me and Doris went down there to see her once. Well, she wouldn't believe it, but Doris left me. We've been married 72 years, come September the 4th. Oh boy, then wound up, Mr. Rowe wanted us back up here, and I bought the place right across the road from him. But I got moved up here from down there. I put that place down there in 7th place. And less than 3 years. 2 years. Out of 8. 7th place out of 8. And they never could get nobody to do nothing down there. So I made a record. I made records, they advertised me everywhere. All the other counties, states. And then I bought the place over there. And I can look across here and I can see the pond and I can see this farm. It's just so natural that I need to buy it. Jim said, Danny was out there. We had him a shorthorn steer. He's going to show it 4-H or something. And he was leading up the side of 27. Jim said, as rode by, ain't no use of putting it on if you're going to take it off. They showed carloads of steers. Their name went across the world. Well, I always heard it's the best farm in Garrett County. That's what Danny Irvin said. Best valuable farm in Garrett County. See, Hunt Farm down there got a lot of good land where corrals on. But it's got a lot of goosenecks and stuff in it. Places too. For the size of it, it's 1,550 acres that's left in it. It's got a state road, I guess, all the way around it. But in the way, latter part of 1971, of course, I'll tell you a lot more stuff. Got my back broke, was running with a guy out at Mercer County on Memorial Day, out 33. And a drunk from over here in Garrett County was in that subdivision. They'd already called the police on him. He'd come out and he's on our side of the road. His name was May. Guy I was with went to his side, and then that guy, he drunk, he decided to come back to his side, hit me right in the door. They'll cross the road. And they took me and him up there at the hospital. Wasn't nothing wrong with him, just drunk. And drove me in there and they said, well, know my name and everything, and I told him. Dr. Jackson, I believe his name, Chris Jackson. And they x-rayed me. He showed, he looked right over my head and he said, he would took much put you in tin can. I said, well, you encourage me. Then I was out in the hallway. And they said, don't you help us do nothing. So we'll take care of you. So you want to call your wife? I said, yeah, you can call her. I want to talk to her. So I talked to her. I said, honey, I'm over here at the hospital. And I said, you need to come over here and check me in. What's the matter? I said, oh, you find out when you get here. Don't worry about it. I'll drive the truck. I said, no, I'm driving the truck. You drive the car. So, that's okay, honey. And she come in and she looked at me and said, what's the matter with you? I said, well, I said, just go check me in, honey. That's all I want you to do, just go check me in. I didn't want to get her tore up. So they put me in a ward there with a bunch of dying people, groaning and carrying on. And this cop that come out there, he put his hand on it. He said, you want me to hold you back? I said, well, it wouldn't hurt nothing. It was flopping. I mean, it was just more hurt than anything else. He wasn't into or nothing. It just, see, they put me in the ambulance with this May boy that was running into me. There's Lee and Billy Joe May's brother. And he didn't have no insurance, he didn't have no license, he didn't have nothing. And they come in there and they said, Mr. Ayers, this doctor told you to take this pill. I said, I don't want that pill. I said, you can take it back with me. If I need, I'll holler. Here's a pain pill. She said, what do you need? I said, I need a private room. She said, we don't have it. I said, I know where I can get one. Or I said, Garrett County Hospital. They found me a private room. They didn't have one. Right on the end of that hospital, there's one down there waiting for me. They took me down there. Doris stayed with me night and day. I couldn't even wipe my tail. They put me in a brace. And he wouldn't stand me up. And I couldn't. I said, and then my legs just went down. I said, well, you got it tightened up. So they tightened her up a little more. I could at least stand up, but I go to the bathroom and barely could sit on a commode. Like I said, I couldn't even wipe my tail. Doris did. She's been a sweetheart to me. Anyway, I come home and had a hospital bed, stayed over there. Ray Wilson was county judge at that time. He heard about me, and he had a helicopter. He'd fly up to Wade Motor Company and land up on the roof, go down a ladder across the street to courthouse, county judge. And sometimes he'd drive his Cadillac to town. If he did, he stopped over and talked to him. And his wife was a school teacher, Ruth. And you know where you all got Blakeman's farm? Lived over in that house to the left. That's where Ray lived at that time. But his wife lived there afterwards too. She was a school teacher. Oh boy. Anyway, me and Doris walked across the road. He's going to sell this farm at auction. Mr. Brogel been on it the last time. Since that time, he lost his hand. I went down to see him the night before he was going to sell. He said, "No, you should all do your things, and if I hadn't lost my hand, it'd be different. But I'm not going to be interested." Well, he come up here to sell, and me and Doris walked across the street, walked across the road. I saw her coming down our drive. I said, "If you don't bring no more this," I said, "I'll buy it." She kind of laughed. And we walked over here. She went up here and sat down right there on this porch beside Cecil Sanders. He's really a lawyer uptown, been a good one. And Ed Freeman was auctioneer. And Carol was the guy that had it listed. And I was out turning the blacktop on that far end, this side of the mailbox. And they called for a bid, who would give this, who would give, and I made the first bid. And every time they looked at me, I'd bid. And Bob Cogan and I were standing out in front of Ed Freeman with the big fellows bid against me. He's begging him to bid, and his wife was telling him not to. The guy was from Missouri. He used to be here, worked for Sadler Brothers. He told his wife tell him not to, and Bob was telling him to bid, and Bob was half drunk. And so finally, I just quit. Carol come over and said, "Harris, you can't quit. You bid it all the way." I said, "I've done quit." He said, "Give me one more bid." I said, "I'll give you one more bid. If that guy don't bid as fast as me, sell it to me." He did. He said, "Ed, sell it to Harvey Harris." And I didn't even know where I was going to get the money or not. I owed $14,000 on that place over there. And I didn't have nobody. I didn't even have a piece of machinery. I know of. I don't think I did. If it wasn't much. I don't think I had that. But anyway, got Elwood Todd to buy some kenners and cutters. Some cows, and wasn't much. And see, Mossman had this place. They tore the fences out and all that kind of stuff. I knew the fences could be put back. After I bought it, it wasn't too long after that, somebody out of Pulaski County come by and asked me if I'd take $1,100 an acre. That was not hardly twice as much as my gift for it. I said, oh, I guess. But another thing is, Paul Rubel wanted to trade farms next there too. And they had the money to buy it. And they said, oh, it wouldn't bid. Jimmy Hayes said nothing. He said, how you trade farms? I said, well, I think I'm just going to keep it. And I talked to Land Bank, Colson, and he talked like he'd loan me the money. As soon as that sale was over, he took off like a big bird. But he wasn't going to loan me no money. So there I was. But I had a loan with insurance company and it had been good. And so I asked him if he wanted. He said, I'll see you back. And I got the money through them. The insurance company. Then I had 4 boys, as you know. And they're good ones. Danny was oldest, but 7 years older than Sammy, I think. And then he took the reins. We walked over the farm before we bought it. I said, you know, if I bought it, if I buy it, you know who's going to have to take care of it? Yep, if I do. If I have to, I'll quit college. Like his first year of college. He'd come in, he wouldn't be in the house 5 minutes, he'd be gone out on farms somewhere doing something. Danny was a good one, still a good one. Yeah. Well, make a long story short, I bought that up there from Gaffney after that.
The 110 acre field?
Yeah, he didn't own all of it. He just owned part of it. He owned most of it. I had to be a fence put straight up over sort of the middle of it back there, where the corner of Barnett's is at. Go straight up a hill and over. And Gaffney, he lived in Lexington. Come over here doing a Sunday project. Just messing gone. Wouldn't hard to speak to you. He come over here and putting up hay and all that kind of stuff. And I told him, I said, we're going to put a fence up, Mr. Gaffney. Well, I don't know how in the world we can do it. I just don't know how we can do it. I said, well, I can tell you how we can do it. What's that? I said, you sell me yours and we'll forget it. He said, are you sure? I said, yeah. Well, see, Scott Rogers tried to buy it. He wouldn't sell it to him. And old man Rita Barnett's father, Chittings, he tried to buy it, and he wouldn't sell it to him. And he priced it to me. He said, the only reason I'm doing that is because your boys are farmers. And I talked to him for 2 weeks, sitting right in there. I kept telling him, I said, hey, I can't go that much. Anyway, where I could or didn't, I didn't. And finally we traded. And then later on, there's a place over there on Fork Church Road. Scott Rogers come by. He said, I hate to do you this way. But he said, I want to have to price it to you. And I got to know something Monday morning. This was Saturday. And I think you'd be a damn fool about it. That's what he said. At least he gave me an opportunity.
Yeah, because he told you that he would, didn't he? He told you that he would. You had it rented, didn't you?
Yeah. 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 You see, we went in there. He like to have a heart attack over because Jerry, whoever it was, he wouldn't do nothing. And Scott had waterers and everything stuck up on that barn. And he wouldn't put the fence up, wouldn't do nothing. And so as soon as we got it on January, I believe 1980, the boys started fencing. Danny was the head of it. He run the farm for 28 years. But anyway, it wound up, had 508 acres paid for. Finally. After we sold out the cattle and everything. And a poor preacher's son was supposed to have that. That's what it was about.
So you just went on and paid the farm off in 2000 and dispersed the cattle and stuff? That's when we had the April 11, 2000 was the dispersal.
Mm-hmm. Had 2 auctions.
Mm-hmm. Equipment and
Yep. And then I bought that big tractor you're driving and the mower you're driving. And the mower, and a 20-foot mower. Scott had a New Holland up till then, and they couldn't get no parts for it. Larry Reese died, you know. He was a crook. He sung a good song, though. Well, you know, I couldn't tell you all of it because I can't remember all of it. It'd take me longer than that to tell you.
we'll turn it off there, quarter off.